Hey shy people, what is your worst experience? Going to a crowded party with one friend who really wanted to drag you along but then disappears. When your one friend takes you to Roller World and then disappears with her girlfriend, and then her guy friend has to hang out with me cause he didn't want to leave me alone. But both are shy to make a conversation. So we just sit there awkwardly and wait for our mutual friend to come back. My outgoing mother announcing to everyone how shy I am. Got one better. My outgoing mother announcing to everyone that I must be cold as she dead stares at my chest. She did this during my teenage years. As a shy, anxiety-ridden teenage girl. Holy fuck. Edit. Thank you to the Redditors that gave awards. It was very kind of you. I am sorry that anyone else had to deal with a mother like mine. I hope you all are doing good in life despite them. In my high school Spanish class, some kid screamed, "Do you ever talk at me?" in front of the entire class. Super embarrassing at the time, but hilarious to look back on. Edit. For those curious, I said nothing in response. If only I could go back in time. When you talk and people say things like, "Oh, I didn't know you could talk," or "This is the first time I hear you talking." In the same vein as this. When I was a shy kid instead of a shy adult, I'd spend quite a while in my bedroom in order to get personal space away from my family, who are all chatterboxes. Almost every time I finally came out into the family room for a little bit of socializing, everyone would always make a huge deal of seeing me. "I didn't even know you were here. Wow, she's socializing. She's out of her cave." And so many other things always said so derisively. Always made me just want to go back into my room to hide. I am a bit shy when first meeting people, so after getting to know me, I often hear, "When I first met you, I thought you were such a bitch." Cool. In 4th grade I was in a new school and most of the girls avoided me BC they thought I was a bully. Found out in 5th grade. I was so sad BC I thought no one wanted to be my friend and that they hated me. I cried and begged my mom not to let me go to the Christmas party. When school reopens, they were like, "Why didn't you come? We missed you." As a kid my shyness was crippling. I got locked in the toilet in school. Started yelling, crying. And the teacher had to remove the lock to get me out. The whole class was standing behind him, looking at me. Geez, I thought that stuff only happened in the movies. Hope you're doing well. Edit. This is the most upvotes I've ever gotten. I didn't think I was saying anything important enough, but thanks. Starts college, doesn't make friends, lockdown, shit's fucked. I'm 3 years into out of state college with no friends there. Wrecks my mental state every time I go back. The worst part is when you finally gather the courage to try to talk to people about something you know they're interested in and they only give one-word answers back. I was in elementary and took a bus home each day. I missed my stop and I was so terribly shy and quiet the bus driver didn't hear me. He went on to pick up high school students and didn't notice I was still on the bus. The high school students were so sweet and kind. They alerted the bus driver and he took me home. My mom was freaking out by the time I got home. My shy buddy hated ordering coffee at the Starbucks in the Barnes & Noble bookstore. They cannot accept your order and take your money. They had about 6 questions they have to ask first. She couldn't stand it. "Huh? I'd like a medium coffee." Them. "Do you want light roast or dark roast?" "We don't have medium. We have tall." "Okay. Do you need space or cream?" "What's your name? Are you part of the bookstore club? Are you part of the Starbucks points?" I'm not sure if I'm remembering it right, but I think at least once she panicked and walked away mid-interrogation. While going to college I interned for the state's largest business development corporation. In a meeting with C-suite executives, the top dog was just making friendly conversation before we got started and asked me what classes I was taking. To set the picture, I am just the pew note taker and would never expect anyone to even notice that I was there. Let alone put me on the spot with a long table of successful professionals staring at me. I blacked out. Zero brain function. I mumbled a few inaudible grunts and ums before having no choice but to admit that I couldn't remember. Oh my dog. I wanted to die. The looks of confusion and the awkward century that it took to switch topics amongst themselves still haunts me before bed. I was at a friend's house. His parents used to scare me. The dad had a thick Asian accent, and due to my nerves, I guess I wasn't paying attention. Didn't realize the dad was full on asking how I was. And I just stood there awkwardly. I thought he was speaking to his son in Cantonese. I still think about this. I never corrected my boss when she mixed up my name on the first day. I had already introduced myself to some people by my real name. The other half of people my boss introduced me to called me another. I felt too shy to correct her in front of the group. It just led to more awkward conversations, as the two names were completely different. Went to a party. Guy I've never met walks up to me, shakes my hand, and says hello. What's your name? Where were you born? Where will you die? What's in between? Not letting go of my hand the whole time. I completely locked up. Had no idea what to say. Oh. Okay. My name's John. I was born in Milwaukee. Judging by this conversation, I'm probably going to die at this party, and the in-between will be you murdering me. Nice to meet you. Mandatory speech class when I was a freshman in college. I'd do the thing, then go back to my dorm and throw up. Really freaked out my roommate, who I barely spoke to. 5 speeches that semester. It was a nightmare. I really fking hate public speaking with a passion. For my speaking exam in year 10, I was allowed to do it with just the teacher and a couple friends of my choice to be the audience. Then in year 11 we was told they lost our results, so we had to do it again. I cried in class but was too shy to tell anyone why. Had to do it in front of the whole class but was allowed to just stand at my desk. Didn't help much and I still hate it. Putting a year's worth of confidence into a job interview, just to be the quiet one after you get the job. The anxiety, dude. It's always frustrating as hell. Your first few weeks while getting comfortable with everyone, you just keep asking yourself, if I could interview so well, why the hell is it taking so long to be able to talk with my coworkers? Double quote. Graduating basic training and having to walk across the stage. Stop at the mic. Execute a left face turn. State my name in the mic with a short pause between first and last name as a cue for the next row of guys to walk up. I completely f-ked it up in front of everyone. Went to shake my drill sergeant's hand as a formality of the ceremony, and he whispered to me, way to FCK that up in front of everyone. Dipshit. FCK off, back to your seat. Double quote. I f-king hate public speaking. I decided to be brave at a college picnic for students in the pharmacy program. All the tables were occupied. So I confidently went up to a table with a bunch of people and asked if I could join them, and I immediately sat down. No one said a word to me. Not one word. I ate as fast as possible and went home and cried. FCK those assholes. Edit. It was a picnic to welcome back students. All the tables were full, and I had a plate full of food. My options were to pick a random group of people, or try to stand up while eating salad and whatnot, or dump my plate and just go home. In retrospect, I should have picked option number 3, but at the very minimum the people I sat with could have made an effort to be polite. My by far worst experience was living toto with a roommate. I wasn't able to talk to them and I thought they hate me. I'd like to tell you that in some cases being silent is not about you. Sometimes others are just not friendly at all, and if you are just a little more sensitive than an average person, you can end up being silent among them. When you go to a new school or workplace where you meet friendly people, you can find yourself chatting with them all day. Last year I had a new workplace and unfortunately some people were extremely unfriendly there. So I ended up being silent and having lunch alone. It was weird cause I am 32 and thought I am already over the social bullshit nonsense. Then I realized it's about the others, not about me, and I just need to look for the ones who are friendly with me. I wouldn't say this is my worst experience, but it's amusing to me. I was setting up a network in a small satellite office and was still working when the last other person left. It was nighttime and they didn't see me or know I was still there, so they turned out all the office lights as they left. I left them off because I enjoy working in the dark and do it often. After like an hour another worker came back into the office to do something or another, and rather than have to say hi I opted to hide under the desk I was at in an open office as a 35-year-old man. I'm not sure why I did that. But luckily they didn't notice me and left again after about 15 minutes. I was having coffee with a friend one day. We had just been to the gym, so I thought I was looking pretty disheveled. But maybe not, because a guy came up to us and slid me a piece of paper with his number on it. He said he had seen me while driving by and thought I was beautiful and just had to stop and say hello. I was so caught off guard and just naturally awkward around strangers period that the only thing I could blurt out was, "If you think I'm cute now you should see me when I've bathed." Double quote. He walked away. My friend laughed. I was embarrassed for days. I hate video calls. I was going to drive 1.5 hours to my college to talk to a professor in person instead of just video calling to follow up on something. I have a theory on this one because I feel the same way. In-person interactions usually allow for a deeper level of connection when it's someone you are already familiar with. That can make us shy people less anxious. Something that you totally lose over a video call. Someone took my order from the shelf at the online order station at Chipotle and I waited 45 minutes after the time it was supposed to be done before saying anything because I didn't want to be rude. Not the little worst thing to happen to me. But it is what stopped me from going to Chipotle. I'm not shy, but I'm one of those only talk when necessary types. I tell new people that I'm not shy and I am a low energy person, so I'm always this mellow. There is nothing wrong with not having the energy of a 10-year-old who drank 3 Red Bulls. People do seem to take things I say more seriously than others. People are different in that. Worst experiences are probably the people that talk about you right next to you. Assuming you don't have a backbone. Sat at the back of the class in Spanish. When the teacher from the front asks a question. Being the little nerd I was in school, my hand shot up. The teacher then looked over, pointed directly at me and said, "Si, señorita." I was a very feminine, underdeveloped and late through puberty 15-year-old boy with longer than usual hair. I stopped answering any teacher's questions willingly from that point. I started high school after having been cooped up at home for 6 months recovering from spine surgery for scoliosis. I was really unsocialized when I started school that September, and had to force myself to do things that involved talking to people I didn't know. I'd set little daily goals for myself until I got used to it again. It was painful. I imagine much of the world will feel this way when isolation ends though. Had a high school buddy who was sworn to silence to most people, even teachers. Yet a select few kids he'd talk to. Funniest guy I've ever met. Said he's gone full years without saying a word to his own teachers. Whenever I have to talk up front at school. But I actually speak loud enough. I just don't like looking at the people. I'm a really shy person. Not so much online. And definitely not shy with my friends. Having to explain our project in a seminar when the one who had to do the task didn't turn up. Was really shaking in the process. Our department's section head at where I work will go on leave without warning. Text and email at 5 AM for me to attend meetings in their place, and I end up having to take lead on everything. I thought I'd get used to this by now, but no. The worst part of being shy is that other PPL pass you over. You know. Those situations when a teacher, waiter, employee says something. You answer and they don't hear you because you didn't yell it through the room like the most PPL do. Hated that totally. I seems like many PPL pretend you are not there if you don't talk that much. That's disgusting. They literally forget that you exists. Well, sorry, but I hate being loud. Not really as shy anymore cause I think I just don't give a FCK anymore, but when masks first were required I kinda felt hidden. Then when I had to go in public where masks weren't required or show my face without it, I felt kinda vulnerable for some reason. I f***ing hate the first day of every class the teacher does the stupid let's do the icebreaker and go around the class and have everyone say a fun fact about yourself. God, I fucking hate that shit. Yep. This was one of the worst for me. Also the variation where you come up with a nickname for yourself. And or have to repeat the nicknames of everyone who came before you. Oh, this time was bad. I was on my very first date. And I hung out in his bedroom. Then I needed the toilet. I pulled off 3 sheets. But the bit I left had a tear in it. And I thought I'd look like a vandal or something if I left it. So I tore another piece. This also left a tear in the remaining piece, so I did it again. I ended up using half the roll just because I was too awkward to leave a tear in the toilet paper. Entering a new place for the first time. Be it a shop or a bar or a restaurant. I'm always play the gentleman and hold the door open for my partner so she can assess the area before I sheepishly shuffle in behind. Middle school. Guy sitting next to me said something smelled and he pointed at me. I was confused because I could smell it too and I thought it was the guy sitting across from me. Came home that day and smelled the boots I was wearing and it was me. Apparently, you have to wear socks with boots to prevent your feet shoes from smelling. And I have very sweaty feet. FML. The pain was slightly alleviated when he tried to friend me on Facebook though, lol. I was far worse as a child. In 5th or 6th grade, I would get bused to a learning center once a week for a gifted program. My very first day, we were supposed to get up and talk about a painting the class had been discussing. I have always had a really quiet voice. I still do. And on top of that I was pants shittingly terrified of new environments and speaking in front of a class. I had barely gotten a word out and the teacher yelled at the top of her lungs, "This is not for you," and railed on about how I needed to speak louder. The class was not just for me. I was selfish, etc. So then I tried to finish with my voice shaking, my heart in my throat, and fighting the tears that were forming so I wouldn't also be the quiet, nerdy kid that cried in front of the class. I'm in my 40s now and not nearly as shy, socially terrified as I was then. But I still remember it. And that feeling. Clearly. Not a single experience. More like an ongoing one. Shyness keeps you from making friends as easily. As such, you're often forgotten about. I'm not part of any cliques. Any groups. Never invited to anything. And overlooked by people I consider friends. I've spent time with these people on my birthday, during different celebrations and events. And I'm still not part of the group. Like, I don't know if I'm just off-putting because I'm shy or if they just genuinely don't like me for me. Unless I can give them something somehow. I get a smile and a wave. That's it. Never anything more. Oftentimes less. Largely due to the fact that I am unable to properly make friends with anyone. Any group beyond a couple of people makes me close down because I simply don't know what to do in a group setting. My worst experience? Existing. My birthday happens during vacation from school and I never failed a subject, so I didn't celebrate with my class before. Until my senior year in college, where we got vacation classes in preparation for the board exams. It was a joint class of 2 sections and our class president took it upon herself to surprise me. Boy was I surprised. I was sitting in front of the class as always, designated seats, and the president announced it and the whole room sang happy birthday to me. I am not kidding when I say I sank in my chair until half my upper body was gone and wished the ground would swallow me whole. Not so long ago, a group of girls in my school heard and spread a rumor in my school that I was dating multiple people, and the rumor got around to another group of girls that I call the gossip group. At lunch, the gossip group, who had around 5-10 girls, came up to me and started asking questions like, "Who are you dating? And are you a WH3? I ignored them for some time, but eventuality they cornered me. And me being the anxious person I am, had a mental and emotional breakdown right there and then. And X200B. Not one of my best moments. And X200B. I would also like to clarify that one of these girls used to bully me for my race back when I was about 5-8. Very shy in middle school, and at middle school graduation, they called my older sister's name during the ceremony. I was mortified. For perspective, my sister graduated 7 years before. And to make it worse, they did it twice while presenting an award I had worked hard for. Best man speech in front of 100 plus people. I knew it was coming almost a full year in advance and agonized over it for basically that entire year leading up to it. I recited it at least 1,000 times in my head. It was sheer terror when I went up to do it. That said, in the end, somehow, I actually did pretty well with it. I received a lot of compliments and they seemed genuine. So the experience itself wasn't the worst. Maybe just the time leading up to it. I looked at the food menu beforehand and picked a food I wanted to get. Go to the counter. Ask for that food and they had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I just left without a word. I was so embarrassed. Never asked for food there again. The first time I decided to speak up in class, a person who had been harassing me yelled out, "EWW. That's what you sound like. For the sake of our ears, you should probably just never speak again." Double quote. After reading some of the answers, I just want to lay down that a lot of people confuse shyness with social anxiety. Being a little shy isn't wrong. It's just a personality trait. But being as socially anxious as to not being able to interact with other beings without panicking is definitely going to damage you a lot. If you're dealing with the latter, I definitely encourage you to go therapy. Social anxiety is relatively easy to treat. Interacting with other people isn't meant to be a stride.